Hey, happy Saturday, everyone. I hope everyone is having a blessed day. Just hopping on because I wanted to provide some clarity when it comes to book editing. And maybe this is your first time tuning in. My name is Ashley M. King, aka The Get It Done Clean. Hey, Flow Rider! That's another phenomenal editor, ghostwriter there. So if y'all ever need any ghostwriting editing services, definitely hit up the Flow Writer. All right. So if this is your first time tuning in, I'm Ashley M. King, the Get It Done Queen, and I help people of faith tell their story by writing a book and maximizing their reach by leveraging their message to create brands and not just books. So I do want to hop on, like I said, to talk about the different types of book editing because I have quite a few people that are like, oh, I just want my book proofread, and hey, Diamond. And reading is not the type of editing that they need for their book, not at the current time. So you can Google different types of book editing. You may have 6, you may come up with 5, because a lot of times they are grouped together and some of the services are kind of overlapped. So I'm just going to talk about what we at Get It Done Publishing kind of address as far as the type of editing that we help authors with, as well as most of the time, I'm going to say about 90% of the times when authors come to Get It Done Publishing, they are ready for this particular type of editing. Definitely. So the first and foremost, generally after someone has finished writing a book, is developmental editing. That is the overall big picture to make sure there are any plot holes are missing. Sometimes I will have authors that come and they're like, oh, I just was writing different stories and I just want to kind of put it together. So it's making sure kind of everything flows. There aren't like big pieces of the story missing that if I were to read this, it doesn't make sense. Like I'm missing like 10 years of your life type thing. Just making sure overall everything is it works. It's put together, right? Generally, developmental editing, what I like to do is do a table of content session with people. And that is where I would send you a questionnaire and you fill it out. You use it as your dumping grounds, right? Because a lot of times people are like, I have all this content that I want to put in the book. But one, I'm not quite sure if the content works. Like maybe this type of information can be used for another book. Or maybe I'm not quite sure. I've kind of lost track. So I tell people, when you book a table of content session with me, you put every single idea that you have for your book. Use that as your dumping grounds. Like get everything out of your mind. You put it in that questionnaire and then you allow me to do work. So before we get on the phone for our, hey Liz, for our other session, I do work. Like I put all your ideas and stuff, I like to say in order, but doesn't necessarily mean that they're chronological order. Typically, I deal with nonfiction and memoir, so ideally they're going to be in chronological order, but not always. I don't know if you've ever been to the movies and you see a movie and it start off action-packed, like the car blows up, people are shooting, it's just like a whole bunch of action, and they're like, hold up. Before we got here, let me explain what happened 3 weeks ago. And then they go back, tell the story, and they build up to that scene. So, in essence, your book can be that, type of way. Maybe you're going to start off with the climax, the height of the story, and then you're going to kind of go back and explain. Because maybe starting off with, I was born back in 1970, it's not going to draw their attention. However, that information is needed to kind of explain the era that you grew up in and why you are the way you are. But that's not for you to kind of, get your little pennies in a bunch. That's for me to do all of that work prior to us getting on our session. And during, our session, I'll send you kind of the outline of your book, different points that you want to, bring out. Maybe you should expand upon more. Maybe you actually need more. Maybe you don't even need this. Some of this content can go into another book. That is kind of what I do. Well, that is what I do during the table of content session. At the end, I do give you a writing schedule. I do ask for your publication date because I like to work backwards. So it is, what is it? We're in April. Let's just say for June, for the sake of June. Then I would say, hey, by, end of May, you need to be, finished writing, 2 weeks editing. I'll break it down based off your publication date. Of course, we need probably a little more time than that, but just as an example, I work back from that date. So developmental editing is kind of the overall picture of the book to make sure, nothing is missing, the plot makes sense, that it's working, right? The next one is substantial. Well, I like to say substantial editing because that's what we're going to do. But you have, I guess, substantive editing, but I say substantial because in essence, after we've gotten the plot holes and everything missing, then in essence, we're going to be working on rearranging perhaps paragraphs, even chapters, to make sure that things flow. Maybe in the way that you're written, chapter 3 should be before 2. So we are changing, like it is substantial. That's why I say substantial editing. We are moving things around, making sure it flows, the flow in the organization, that it makes sense in the way that you are telling the story, that the reader isn't going to get lost. So that is substantial editing. I think in essence, I've only had to, girl, it is not, I was just about to say, I've only had to do this once, and I don't like doing it because one, I'm coming behind. Like, I like to do the table of contents session first, and not everyone uses that. Maybe their book's already been written, because when they have their organization and flow, substantial editing is probably not even needed because they already have the structure, the flow. Things are going to make sense. However, when somebody comes to, you, and it's like, okay, this don't even make sense. Like, so now we got to sit here, read the book, actually think what's going to make sense in the mind of a reader to say, okay, well, I know it kind of, you're writing this way, but as a reader, it's going to make more sense to me if we put chapter 3 before 2 and etc. Or move this paragraph. Matter of fact, this paragraph is just confusing. It's all get out. So let's just not put this or reword it or whatever. So that is a headache. And when it comes to that type of editing, you are paying some money. Okay, that's just point, period, blank. Pretty much the type of editing that I am giving you, they're in order of kind of what's the most expensive to least expensive. Once again, you want to check with each, every editor. One, to determine their price. And two, like I said, some of these types of services overlap each other. So you just want to ask, okay, so if you do developmental editing, what does that include? If you do substantial editing, my term, what does that include? If you do next copy editing, what does that term entail? So for me, because copy editing, line editing, and then kind of proofreading, they all in essence can, depending on the editor, maybe handle like the commas, the periods, some of the stuff that's missing. However, for copy editing, that's where we will kind of do, I've had people don't have no quotation marks, whatever. But the main focus of copy editing when it comes to getting and publishing is to ensure that things are making sense, like that you're being consistent throughout the book. So I'm going to say this. If your character start off with black hair and later on you said she has red hair and there's no explanation as to how she got red hair, maybe it was just a typo. So we're going to make sure that what you're writing is consistent throughout. So maybe she dyed her and we left that important information out, or maybe it was a typo. Maybe in chapter 2 you said you was molested at 8, then in chapter 4 and now you're saying you molested at 9. So we're going to make sure that things are consistent, that the copy, the stuff that you are writing are consistent throughout, that you are writing 10 versus TEN, being consistent throughout the manuscript, the different type of tenses. And some people may address that in substantial. Some people may do that in line, which is next. But those are the type of things that you want to ask and address. And then, so that's copy. Line editing. Thank you. Line editing is making sure that particular line, we do sentence by sentence, that it's said the best type of way, right? So for me, I'm guilty, 100% guilty when it comes to my emails. I would say reply back to this email. The word back is not needed because reply means respond, which is back. So it's like saying the same word almost twice, So in essence, line editing, yes, I will share this so it will help the people. So line editing is making sure that sentence is said the most concise, the best way possible, right? Without losing your voice, because, as a writer, it's important that your voice isn't lost, especially when you are handing it over to someone else to edit it. So making sure line editing is line by line, sentence by sentence. Is that sentence, or is it being said the best way possible, right? And so that's kind of the major ones. And usually when someone comes to me and they're like, we want you to, edit our book or anything, then generally it's between copy and line editing that they are needing. Now, the last one I think a lot of people are the most familiar with, but they need to realize is the absolute last phase of a book is proofreading. Now, and the reason why I brought this up because I am proofreading a book that I'm currently doing. Proofreading is after you have done all those other types of editing, and we are simply making sure that a period wasn't missing, a comma wasn't missing. Proofreading is like the last type of like if you had a good friend who was good at, English or something like that. Hey, Bethany. Then, okay, of course, and if you can't afford a professional proofreader, then maybe you can give it to a friend that's good with English. Great. But proofreading is the absolutely last type of editing on the totem pole, right? So you have to see here, this book, well, let me kind of hide it, but this manuscript here, we have already edited the manuscript. We are just going through. I like to print mine out when it comes to proofreading because this is how it's going to look within the book. It is already lined up. This has already been formatted. As you see here, we already have the title. We have the drop case. Everything is formatted. This is how it should look with inside the book, right? So I'm just making sure there's nothing crazy. Sometimes your software, and I've literally had this happen, that it put a sentence in there twice. One of the things we do, I'm saying, I'm a lot. I'm catching that. I'm learning. So one of the things at Get It Done Publishing, we do Word document, and we do a final manuscript, send it over to you, make sure everything is legit, and then we'll upload it to the software. Depending on the type of book that you have, there's different softwares out there that will format the book for you. Some are more intense than others. And I noticed that the software that I use for this one, it put a sentence in there twice. And I had to make sure because I was like, look, I know we ain't just skipped that all together. Like, we went to the final manuscript and verified that it wasn't there. So it's always good to have someone proofread. And proofread, once again, is the absolute last type of editing you need for your book. You see, this book is already structured and formatted, ready for print. Proofreading is just going in to make sure that the periods, the commas, there's nothing crazy that happened within there, and that's how it's going to look when it's ready for print. So once again, just a recap, you have the developmental editing, what I say substantial editing, because we're moving things around. It is a headache. Copy editing, line editing, and proofreading. Those are 5, and like I said, you can perhaps Google, you'll come up with 6 or 5 because some of them condense and overlap. And if y'all don't have any questions of what type of editing, I can't give you, well, if you want my prices, you can DM me. However, generally some editors charge by the hour. Some charge by word. I charge by word count because it's point period blank that, hey, you gave me 10,000 words. Depending on the type of editing, it's 10,000 times whatever the whatever the price for the editing is. Some editors charge by hour, and they can give you an estimate saying, okay, I think it's going to take me 7 hours to write your book, to edit your book, but in actuality, it may turn out to be 9, and then you didn't have that budgeted in your account. So I charge per word because, hey, you already know what it is up front, what it's going to be. There's no confusion. I do have an agreement as far as the timeline as when did you get your first draft from Get It Done Publishing. And if we need to do a second draft, you'll get it back. Within my agreement, I have time frames. I have the confidentiality clause because I've had some people wanting to sign an NDA. I'm perfectly fine with that. That's in the agreement. And I'm trying to think anything else. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So definitely ask those particular type of questions. What is their turnaround on time? The revision, how many revisions do they offer? Do they use track changes? If you're not familiar with track changes within Word, okay, this is a pet peeve. Do not send me, what is that? Flow Rider, you may know. I can't Google, is it Google Docs? I can't think of the other software, but we use Microsoft Word. Yeah, I think it's Google Docs. I can't stand that one. But Microsoft Word, and it has track changes. And so within track changes, you're able to see every single thing that they have changed. If I change the period to a comma, if I lowercase, capitalized, deleted, whatever, track changes allows you to see every single thing that that particular editor has done within your manuscript. And then it's all me, my flow, my policy. I'm going to give you what as an industry professional standard, this is what it is, how it should be, perhaps written, things like that. Now, I understand, terminology, hood, slang, we're going to keep it, I'm from the A, so I understand that, okay? But there are some people that say, you know what? No, my readers, maybe they already have a following. I like it to be written like this. That is cool. I am not your publishing company. I am an editor. I will professionally edit your manuscript, but at the end of the day, you have the final say-so on how you want it to be written, okay? And so that is it for me, I think, because I'm about to enjoy my Saturday. Well, I got to finish proofreading this, as we say, proofreading, because it's already been edited, proofreading, just making sure that nothing looks crazy. If anyone has any questions, you can always DM me. If you want to, you can send me an email at hello@ashleymking.com. That is hello@ashleymking.com. And just to throw that out there, for any brands or businesses that you struggle with writing content for your organization or your brand, I have launched a brandable content division for Get It Done Publishing, meaning there are ebooks, articles, blogs, checklists that are already pre-written that you can purchase for your brand or for your business, and then tailor it for your brand, whether you need to add the colors, maybe, I call y'all my Get It Done tribe, maybe you need to add that, but you can tailor it specifically for your business, your brand, and make it your own. It is already written. I have launched it, but I ain't gonna lie, I had somebody working on my website, and the stuff ain't even clickable right now. But you can see the content. We're working on that. We did launch it, but there's a little error. That's just part of business, honey. So I have a lot of self-care, self-love on there right now. I have some entrepreneurial type things. Learn about Facebook ads. I'm going to be uploading some fashion. The goal is to upload content weekly. So people can have it for their business. If there's any, content that you would like written for your brand and that you would like to see on the website, DM me or send me an email at hello@ashleymking.com. That is hello@ashleymking.com. So if there are no questions, there's nothing there, then I'm going to end this live. I hope y'all learned some things about the different types of editing and that you feel confident in hiring your next editor. Hopefully it's me, but if it's not, that you feel confident. Or Flow Rider, my girl Flow Rider in here. Yeah, you feel confident in hiring either one of us to edit your book. So, that is all. Enjoy y'all Saturday. Stay blessed. It is Easter weekend, so I pray that y'all gonna go fellowship in the Lord, with your other brothers and sisters in Christ, all that type of good stuff. God died for us so that we can live, that we can have this life to be entrepreneurs, because it is through God that He has given us the ability to get wealth, right? God has given us the ability to get wealth. So, yeah, just, I don't know if you're an everyday churchgoer or every weekend churchgoer, but just, reverence the Lord this weekend if that ain't what you normally do. Just give Him praise and glory and honor. But all right, y'all, I'm about to hop off. Love y'all. Take care. Goodbye.